Welcome back to another episode of Historic Headstones in Norfolk. We are at the Elmerton Cemetery in downtown Hampton. This is an Afro-American cemetery, and there is a very, very important lady buried here I wanted to talk about. Her name is Mary Smith Kelsey Peake. That's with an E, Peake with an E at the end. She's buried right here. This is the family lot. As you can tell, someone's been taking care of this lot. This is amazing. She's a very important person. The emancipation education of newly freed people is deeply rooted in Hamilton, Virginia, and began with a beloved humanitarian whose passion for education was just as deeply rooted there. Mary Smith Kelsey was born free in Norfolk, Virginia in 1823 and educated in Alexandria, Virginia, then part of the District of Columbia, until the U.S. Congress enacted a law prohibiting education and closing all schools for free people of color in D.C., mirroring the educational landscape in Virginia and several other southern states. Many believe that although Mary was just a teenager, this was the very moment that she served as a catalyst for what became the profound legacy and changed the course of life for many generations to come. In 1839, at the age of 16, Mary returned to live with her mother. After being denied access to the classroom, she risked her own freedom as she began secretly teaching free and enslaved African Americans to read and write. Upon her mother remarrying, she and her family relocated to Hampton, where she expanded her curriculum and eventually gained approval of local authorities. Mary was one of the few women of color whose teaching was officially sanctioned by the U.S. Army, the Union Army, as the United States entered the Civil War in the 1850s. To be exact, she's actually the first African-American female teacher in the U.S. Mary wed Thomas Peake, that's with the E at the end, P-E-A-K-E, a former enslaved man who worked in the Merchant Marines in 1851. They had a daughter named Haiti, whom they nicknamed Daisy. While in Hampton, she also founded a women's charitable organization called the Daughters of Zion, whose mission was to assist the poor and the sick. She made a living by dressmaking and continued her secret mission of educating her people, both young and old. Among her adult students was her stepfather, Thompson Walker, who progressed as a more prominent leader of African Americans in Hampton through her teachings. Her teachings were largely used to foster African American population of Hampton to develop a literacy rate that outpaced most other communities in the South. Thanks to her hard work, the African American community at that time was some of the most educated in the South, was right here in Hampton. Her fortitude to serve as a conduct to educate her people, particularly during a time when it was forbidden, demonstrate that she understood the value of education when what it represented. Mary recognized that access to fundamental education literacy could have a profound impact not only the student but also her entire family and community. Although she was breaking the state law, the Union Army and other white leadership gave her sanction to her lessons, and on the grounds of Fort Monroe, once the Civil War began, she was protected by the Union Army to teach. In 1861, when those who fled enslavement, then regarded as contraband, began flocking to the fort to seek freedom, Mary's educational mission increased in masses. She initially taught at the foot of an oak tree on Phoebus, which is where the University of Hampton is right now, Hampton University. The tree is still there. You can go visit. It's got a fence around it. You can't actually go under it, but you can sit there and look at it. But she was ultimately provided a cottage to serve as his classroom, which is recognized as the very first teacher of what is now Hampton University. Mary continued to teach adults and children from her sick bed until TB took her life in 1862 at the age of 39. That TB is a killer back then. The year after she died, the oak tree, which was provided shade for outdoor lessons and was a setting for local residents gathered there to receive word that President Abraham Lincoln had formally begun the process of freeing those who were enslaved. The Emancipation Oak still stands on the campus of Hampton University. It has grown mightily with the passage of time, extending its reach upward and outward, much like Mary's legacy. She's buried here. She's actually in the northern part of the cemetery. Usually the cemetery's overgrown, but this year they're actually taking good care of it. We still have a lot of stones in these weeds. But as you can see, the cemetery is actually doing very well this year. It's cut, it's cleaned up. The only thing I advise when you come here, there's a lot of snakes, so be careful. I hate my snakes. But other than that, you have a great day, guys. Happy 4th of July.